Today, we're looking at something happening almost under the radar, really. A quiet change in how the UK's Department for Work and Pensions looks at pensioners who own their homes.
That's right. It's not making headlines, but it's impacting potentially tens of thousands. People who thought, I've paid off the mortgage, that's it.
But it isn't quite it anymore, is it?
No. Our mission today is to really unpack this. We'll dig into how the DWP is using property, your actual bricks and mortar, to assess eligibility for key support like pension credit, council tax reduction, even housing benefit in some cases.
And the big surprise, I think, for many listeners will be this. Owning your home outright, that feeling of security, it might actually be pushing you into a different category when it comes to getting state help.
It's a fundamental shift in how that asset is viewed. You work your whole life for that security.
And then it potentially counts against you.
Precisely. It creates this real vulnerability.
Okay, let's get into the details. Section 1. The new role of bricks and mortar. We know they look at income, savings, but what's changed about the house itself?
Well, the basic rules haven't technically changed overnight. You still have capital limits for means-tested benefits. For pension credit, for instance, that key figure is £10,000 in savings or capital.
Right, and anything over that reduces your benefit, the tariff income rule.
Exactly. £1 reduction for every £500 or part of £500 over the £10 K limit. But crucially, your main home, the place you live, was always disregarded. It didn't count towards that £10,000.
So my £300,000 didn't matter if my savings were, say, £8,000.
Correct. That was the principle. The shift now is more about interpretation and, frankly, scrutiny. The DWP seems to be exploring the boundaries of that disregard. They're looking much harder at who owns the property, how it's registered, and critically, who else lives there.
Why does who lives there matter so much?
Because it can blur the lines. Is it still just your primary residence if other adults are contributing, or could be seen as contributing?
It opens up questions about whether the property's value or the household setup represents means that aren't being fully declared or utilized.
So even if I own it outright, worth a lot, but I can't just, spend the bricks, why the interest?
It seems to boil down to this idea of potential resources. They accept you're not selling it tomorrow to buy groceries, but the value is there. It's often the biggest asset someone has. And there appears to be an internal pressure, maybe driven by budget constraints, to view that massive asset value as something that could be accessed maybe through equity release or downsizing before the state steps in with full support.
It's a kind of last resort thinking applied to the home itself.
You could put it that way, yes.
Which brings us to a huge practical problem. How are people finding out? Because this isn't exactly front page news.
No, absolutely not. And that's perhaps the most difficult part. The communication is, well, often non-existent or incredibly vague. So you don't get a letter saying, your house value is too high.
Rarely, if ever, that explicitly. Instead, people might get a standard letter about a routine eligibility check or a query about changes to household circumstances. Very generic.
Yeah.
And it's only when the benefit payment suddenly stops or is reduced or worse, they get a letter demanding repayment for past benefits that they realize their home ownership situation was the trigger.
Wow. That must be terrifying, finding out after the fact.
It's devastating for people. The lack of clarity causes immense stress.
Let's move into some specific scenarios where this is really biting. You mentioned household changes. What about adult children moving back home?
Yes, this is a really complex and honestly quite upsetting area we're seeing flagged in the sources. Think about the traditional setup. An adult son or daughter moves back in to care for an elderly parent, maybe helping with meals, lifts, just being there.
That sounds like a good thing, saving the state money on care costs.
Absolutely, it's a vital support network. But the DWP systems might see it differently. If that adult child is working, or even claiming benefits themselves.
Oh, I see where this is going.
The system can flag it. Even if the child pays no rent, contributes nothing financially beyond maybe sharing groceries, the DWP might assess the situation as a shared financial arrangement, or deem the child a non-dependent.
A non-dependent. What does that mean in practice?
It means the DWP assumes that adult child should be contributing financially to the household running costs, even if they aren't. And based on that assumption, they can reduce the parent's pension credit or other means-tested benefits.
So the act of helping your parent could directly lead to that parent losing income.
Precisely. It's perverse, really. It often triggers intrusive questions about household finances. Benefits get suspended while they investigate. It leaves vulnerable pensioners in a terrible limbo.
Okay, what about another common situation? Someone moves into a care home. How does the house assessment change then?
Right. When a homeowner moves into residential care permanently, the value of their home often becomes key to funding that care. There's the well-known 12-week property disregard.
What's that for?
It's meant to give the person and their family breathing space about 3 months to sort things out without the house value being counted for care fee assessment. Time to decide if the move is permanent, maybe arrange a sale or rental.
So, for 12 weeks, the house is safe.
In theory, yes, for permanent moves. But what we're hearing is that local authorities, under huge budget pressures themselves, are scrutinizing this much more closely.
How so?
They might challenge whether the disregard applies or apply pressure to make decisions about the property much faster, sometimes even before that 12-week period is comfortably up.
Yeah.
And the exceptions to the disregard rules are being interpreted very strictly.
And the situation gets even messier with jointly owned homes, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. This is where notional capital comes in, and it catches so many people out.
Explain notional capital. Okay, imagine a pensioner lives in a house they own jointly, maybe 50-50 with a sibling. Or perhaps it's partly owned by the estate of their late spouse. Let's say their share of the house equity is valued at £100,000.
Right, but they can't actually get that £100,000, can they? They can't force the sibling to sell or access the estate's share easily.
Exactly. It's completely illiquid capital for them. They are effectively trapped in that ownership structure. But the DWP rules can treat that £100,000 share as notional capital belonging to the pensioner.
And because £100,000 is way over the £10,000 limit.
It instantly disqualifies them from means-tested benefits like pension credit. So you have someone living in a valuable house, but with maybe only their state pension to live on, suddenly cut off from vital support because of theoretical equity they cannot access.
Which leads us straight into the fairness paradox.
Yeah.
Section 3. The DWP line is that these checks are about fairness to the taxpayer.
Yes, that's the official rationale. They argue it's unfair for someone sitting on significant housing wealth, even if it's tied up, to receive the same level of taxpayer-funded support as someone with absolutely no assets. On paper, you can see the logic target help where it's most needed.
But the reality, as you've described, is often people who are asset-rich, income-poor.
That phrase sums it up perfectly. We're talking about people, maybe in London or the Southeast, owning a home now worth £250,000, £300,000, maybe more, purely due to house price inflation over decades.
Yeah.
But their day-to-day income, their actual cash flow after essentials like heating, council tax, food, it might be incredibly low, maybe less than £50 a week disposable income. They are genuinely just scraping by.
So the asset value gives a completely misleading picture of their financial reality.
Completely.
Yeah.
And treating that illiquid asset, the roof over their head, as if it's available cash is what causes such hardship. It ignores the difference between wealth on paper and actual money to live on.
And the way this is being implemented, often buried in guidance or applied retrospectively, that adds another layer of distress.
It really does. The procedural impact is huge. People get these shock letters, sometimes demanding repayment of benefits received maybe years ago based on a reassessment they knew nothing about.
So they then have to appeal.
Yes, they have to navigate a complex appeals process, try to prove exemptions like the joint ownership trap we discussed, often without any support, all while dealing with the financial anxiety. It feels like being punished for having paid off your mortgage.
And emotionally, a home isn't just an asset, is it? It's security, memories.
Absolutely. It's the foundation of their retirement. To have its value suddenly used to potentially reduce or remove essential income feels like a betrayal of that security.
Okay, this sounds quite worrying for listeners who might be in this situation or know someone who is. But you're not powerless. Section 4. What practical steps can people take?
Right. It's crucial to know you can take action. Action point 1. Be proactive with information. Don't wait to be asked. Make sure the DWP has the exact up-to-date details about your circumstances.
What sort of details?
Who lives in the property names, relationship to you, their status, the precise ownership structure. Is it joint tenants, tenants in common? Is there a trust involved? If the property value has been recently assessed, provide that. Don't assume they know or will find out accurately. Spell it out.
Okay, provide the full picture. What's next?
Action point 2. Get expert help fast. If you get any letter querying your home, your living arrangements, or benefits based on capital, don't try to handle it alone unless you're very confident.
Who should they go to?
Immediately contact a specialist welfare rights advisor. Citizens Advice Bureau is a great starting point, or Age UK or local independent advice centers. They deal with these DWP property issues all the time. They know the rules, the exemptions, and how to frame appeals effectively.
That sounds vital. Action point 3.
Understand the specific protections that might apply to you and make sure they're documented with the DWP. For example, we mentioned dependents living in the home sometimes. If a qualifying relative lives there, the property's value might be disregarded for care cost assessments.
But you have to tell them.
You have to make it crystal clear. Similarly, if the property is held in a specific type of trust or there are complex shared ownership deeds, provide the documents. These details matter hugely in how the asset is treated.
Good advice. And one final action point.
Yes, action point 4. Don't be afraid to request a manual review. So much benefit processing is automated now. Algorithms scan data land registry, council tax records, maybe even online property valuations, and can trigger flags.
Without understanding the nuances.
Exactly. An automated system might see a change in council tax liability or an estimated value increase and automatically query your benefits. You have the right to ask for a human being, a case manager, to look at your entire file, including all the complexities you've explained.
And that can make a real difference.
It often does. A person can understand context that an algorithm misses. Don't just accept a computer says no situation. Push for that human review.
So summing up, knowledge really is power here.
It absolutely is. The whole landscape is shifting. We're seeing housing policy, social care funding, and benefit rules getting tangled together in new ways. And frankly, in times of tight budgets, that big asset, the family home, has become a target for scrutiny.
So the call to action for you, listening, is clear.
Yeah.
If you own your home, or you care for someone who does, and rely on DWP support, take a moment, review your situation, check your paperwork, understand who lives there and how the ownership is structured.
Don't wait for that surprise letter. Ask the questions now. Make sure the DWP has the correct picture. And if you feel the assessment is unfair, get advice and pushback.
These rules might be sticking around, it seems.
They likely are, in some form. But the fundamental right to dignity in retirement and the security you thought you'd earned by owning your home, that's something worth defending. Living without the constant fear that your home itself counts against you, that's crucial.